I don't know how these videos turn to be so long, but good Lord. Okay, now I'm actually really going to get into preparation instead of just talking about food and gear. So, hiking the Appalachian Trail. It's not like just walking on the sidewalk, guys. You have different elevation depending on what state you're in, different terrains, different towns are different distances apart. That's where your guides are going to come in handy. Now, I did use 2 guides. So I have this guide, and then I also, just the AWOL guide. So AWOL is his trail name. I will get into what my trail name was later on as I start talking about the hike as I progress south. But this was the 2016 northbound one. They do have southbound ones. I couldn't find any, so I just had to use it backwards because again, I did hike it technically backwards. But the gear, the guide I used was the AT Hiker's Companion. Now, I didn't bring the guide with me. I tore out the pages of the sections I wanted. I had, so my mom was in charge of my resupplied packages. I had everything pulled out and set into little like packageable piles, and I had the pages that I would need in each section with that stack. So I had her send me each stack that I needed at a time because, I mean, this is lightweight if you think about it. When you're just like, that's lightweight, that's lightweight, that's lightweight, that's lightweight, and you start compiling our lightweight items, it becomes a very large, heavy pack to carry. So this was going to be too heavy for me to bring. So I did pull out pages based on the sections I would need in each spot, and then I would either burn the pages or I would just trash them at the nearest trash can that I came across because I didn't want to keep dead weight on me that I didn't need. So what I did was I compared the two because, again, every single year the trail does fluctuate based on the miles. So I would go through, I would be like, okay, let's look at the total elevation gain. So if we're looking at this page, you can tell that there is a big mountain here. That is going to be a lot harder to hike than, let's say, this. Yeah, there is a little bit of fluctuation here, but it's mainly pretty flat. There are some very flat areas. Let me see if I can find them. So depending on the elevation, there we go, there's some flat stuff. You're just walking, okay? It's not the same thing as hiking 3,800 foot elevation gain. Like it's ridiculous. So the elevation gain does make a big difference in the miles you're going to cross that day. So I would do my best guess to see how many days it was going to take me to hike from one post office to the next post office, because along the Appalachian Trail, they typically have a post office either right along the trail because the trail does cut through town sometimes, or it's within like a half mile to a 2 or 3 mile hike from the trail. And I tried to keep my off-trail distance to about 3 miles, like 3 miles out, 3 miles back, because that does cut into your hiking days. And again, I did have a time frame I wanted to finish by. So I was going through these because they do tell you like where there's post offices, where there are restaurants, hostels, anything like that you may want, ice cream parlors, cafes, state parks. Pretty much anything you're going to need to know about the trail is going to be in those guides, and I did my best to figure out how many days it's going to take to get from one post office to the next, and then I added 1 to 2 days on top of that for the food because I knew I was going to go through food pretty quick. I was going to be burning a lot of calories, and I wanted to have some backup food in case I went through it all. Didn't want to be hiking 20 plus miles a day without food in my system. Not smart. So I always added a few extra days for me and Riley. Again, I carried her extra supply of food. I usually made her carry her own food unless it got above, I think it was like 7 days. If it was above 7 days, I would carry the additional food for her because we did go up to, I believe, it's either 12 or 15 days without a resupply, which is a lot of food to carry. A lot of food. Again, I tore them out And then I think the lowest we did was about 7 miles a day, and that was because it was a lot of up and down, up and down, up and down, and they're called PUDs, pointless ups and downs, because you're just going up, small mountains, down, small mountains, up, bigger mountains, up, down, bigger mountains. It's just constantly going up and down different elevations all day long. You're going to get less miles than you would just walking a flat trail like in Virginia. So the mileage we would do each day would depend upon the elevation gain, the terrain itself, the load stress on my body, so how much I had been hiking prior to, the type of hiking I was doing, and how tired I was that day. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. That stuff does take a wear on you. And I'll get into the big emotional wear that does happen, because you do start missing your family, you do question why you're out there, and you do question why you even began. And then also how heavy your pack is, and then very importantly, the weather. If it's pouring rain, you're probably not going to get about 20 miles in. You may just want to camp in your tent all day long. Did I ever take a day off? I don't think I ever took a day off on trail. If I took a day off, I was staying either in a hostel or like a bed and breakfast somewhere. I never took a day off on trail. I always tried to progress forward at least a few miles. But as I mentioned earlier, we were hiking in hurricane season in southern Maine, northern New Hampshire. So there was a lot of rain, and I got pretty lucky. I think I went it couldn't have been 30 days. Had to have been a few weeks. I almost made it all the way out of Maine without any rain while I was hiking. I had gotten into camp before it started hiking, so I got pretty lucky there. And then for, again, the weather, got down to -14 with wind chill. So there was the day it got down to -14, I remember we did about 6 or 7 miles, I think. And then I just called it. I was like, we can't go any further. I'm freezing. I can't get warm. We need to just go to camp. And I'll get into how camp was set up, especially in the cold, because with a one-person tent, it's not going to stay very warm. So we did use the shelters in that aspect of things. But -14, you have all your clothes on. You're doing everything you can to stay warm. You don't sleep either. There was up to 8 inches of snow on the ground at some points. Some days it was hot enough where I was hiking in a tank top and basketball shorts. It was so hot and I was sweating through everything. So there's a big weather fluctuation in my hike, which is why I had to have different types of gear sent out at different times. And again, that could have been sent out way too early. I remember I had my winter gear sent out to me as I was starting the Presidential Mountains in New Hampshire. And it was like 70 degrees out. So I was hiking in tank top and shorts, but I had long sleeve shirt, down jacket, snow pants, long sleeve, long pants, multiple pairs of socks, winter hat, gloves, you name it, winter gear, I had it in my pack, and I was just wanting to just toss it off the mountain. It was so heavy and just completely unnecessary. So I mainly hiked in shorts for my hike until it got down to about 20 some degrees, because you would get so hot as you're moving that much during the day. You don't really stop. If you stop, it's to eat, and you don't eat very much. Most of what you're eating is like protein bars. So you're eating on the go, but we would stop for lunch so Riley could eat. So at that point you're stopping for 5-10 minutes max, because you're going to get too cold too quickly, and you want to keep moving. I just wanted to get up, get the miles in, get closer to the finish, enjoy the day as much as I could. But when it starts getting really cold, you just kind of want to get to camp, hide in your tent, and get as warm as possible. So on days like that, 10 minutes max, and then you're progressing on. So I was in shorts constantly, and you get really cold in shorts. So I believe that kind of covers everything in terms of the big preparation I was doing. It was a lot of learning and adjusting, because you can't just perfectly map out your hike based on guides. You really have to, you're going to be diverting from your plan. You have to be willing to be accommodating to adjusting your plan. So I was constantly editing, letting my mom know, hey, I think I'm going to be here at this date. Can you go ahead and send this one out? Because post offices, I believe, hold your packages for like 7 to 10 days. So you have a pretty good window to get to that package if you did a drop. But if you missed it, a lot of people don't do drops. You can always go to stores and pick up the food you need. But with the dog, I was very limited on my options. So I did have to do a lot more preparation than a lot of people do. A lot of people can just kind of go off and hike the trail and you can just stop when you want to stop and grab food. When we were in towns, we got food. I was able to leave her out on the deck or just on the porch, wherever we were eating. Go order food, come sit outside with her. But I couldn't just like wander into a grocery store because I had a dog. So I did have to prepare all of our stuff ahead of time and do package drops that my mom would send out at specific intervals, and I would pick up and we'd resupply all of our food. So that was how we did our hike. Again, everyone's hike is different. It was just mine. And so that kind of concludes all the preparation, the gear. Yeah. So next one should be starting at Katahdin. We're going to get into driving from Michigan to Katahdin, how I almost died before I even got to the mountain. Yeah. And then we'll start making our way south to Springer Mountain, guys. Get excited.